What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Ticket DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK4013. Today we have some Monday Night Football to discuss. In addition to some preseason NBA, it's a good time, right? NFL is still in the midst. It's still awesome and is what it is. But we're getting a little bit of that basketball taste also to keep us busy during the week. I did not do well in week 14 on the main slate. Did not do well at all. But I'm grateful that in addition to the NFL showdown slate we have tonight, we also have some preseason basketball. So feeling optimistic. I actually like the showdown slate. I think it's fairly straightforward. I know the Ravens are working with a little bit of rest issues. Not as bad as the Steelers, but similar. And they are on the road. But I'm not totally convinced that this Browns team is that good, especially defensively. They're going to see a good defense today. They have not played a good defense in the last two games. They will see a good defense today. That being said, let's go ahead and dive in. By the way, hit the like button if you haven't already, guys. The like buttons really help us out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We will be doing some preseason action. I plan on doing a game-by-game show on the YouTube channel. And then our actual Wise stream, which is our pre-lock show, will be behind our paywall for Wise Take Nation subscribers. We have season passes, day passes. Day passes are only $2.49 for NBA, so go get that. But stay on the lookout for, stay tuned, be on the lookout for when we do the NBA show. All right. We've got a 45.5 total, down from 46.5. The Ravens are currently 3-point favorites. It's interestingly enough, they opened up -1. They're up to -3. And from what I see, it looks like the tickets are fairly split on this game. Like people are actually, I don't know how people aren't all over the Ravens. And I know that maybe it sounds like I'm discrediting the Browns a little bit. The Browns have a phenomenal record. There's no doubt. I'm just not totally like, if you look at some of the teams they've beaten, I'm just not sold. Right? So they played the Ravens in week 1 in Baltimore. They lost 38-6. The Ravens have not looked that good since then. They lost 38-6. They played the Bengals and they won 35-30. They did beat Washington, who I think is a tough team, but they beat them at a time where they were kind of just lost as a defense. They did beat the Cowboys with Dak, right? Worth mentioning. However, it was the Cowboys. The Colts was an impressive win. That was an impressive win. But we know the Colts defense is not what it's made out to be, and at times their offense can struggle. They got destroyed by the Steelers, 38-7. Beat the Bengals again, but by 3, 37-34. They give up 34 points to the Bengals. Now, granted, thorough Joe Burrow is having himself a season. They lost to the Raiders at home in that win game, which, like, in reality, how did you not run the ball on the Raiders? Right? Like, you're a running team. You're one of the most running efficient teams in the game. You play the Raiders, one of the worst teams. They beat the Texans in a similar circumstance to win. They beat the Eagles. I know the Eagles beat Saints, but that was with Jalen Hurts, right? Most recently, they beat the Jaguars 27-25, barely beat them. And then they beat up the Titans, who they allowed, granted, you could say garbage time had a lot to do with it, but they kind of allowed the Titans to come back in that game, ultimately only winning 41-35. I do think that the Titans kind of shot themselves in the foot when they kind of got going. The point being is I'm just not totally sold that this Browns team is that good. Now, you could argue the same point with the Ravens, right? The Ravens this year have not looked all that good. Lost to the Titans at home, right? Gave up 30 points too. Lost to the Patriots on the road. So they've had some tough ones. Barely beat the Eagles. So you can sort of, I think you can sort of make that comparison. I personally think that the Ravens are still a better team, and maybe I'm wrong. But I don't see how you don't build around Lamar again, right? Lamar on the captain was really popular on the last primetime slate we saw Lamar on against the Steelers, and I think that's just the way to go. Cleveland's defense has been horrendous. Denzel Ward is out again. They do have Myles Garrett back, but we're talking about Lamar Jackson, a guy that's going to run. Lamar, last week, that was his first game back since the COVID thing, and he really didn't have any time to practice. So with a week of practice under his belt, I expect him to be a little bit better against a defense that's offered very little resistance at all. My biggest concern in this game is how Cleveland moves the ball. They don't have Odell Beckham, and they've looked good. But again, I'm just not impressed by the defenses they played. The Titans, the Jaguars, in their last two. We'll start with the Ravens. Lamar and the captain, right? The biggest boost to Lamar here is Mark Andrews expected to be. That's the biggest boost, I think, to the Ravens offense here. And to Lamar. I think you could argue of putting Andrews in the captain at lower ownership. Andrews will be owned with Jackson, but I think Jackson's ownership on the captain is going to be massive. And that's the plan. That's the majority of my teams I plan on going that way. But I get it. The Browns have been terrible against tight ends all year. Andrews went nuts on them in week 1. And, I mean, I forget what percentage, but it's a pretty good chunk of percentage of the touchdowns Lamar throws goes to Mark Andrews. Marquise Brown also in a good matchup. He'd mentioned Denzel Ward is out. Brown's been getting the targets the last 2 weeks. This hasn't really worked. Maybe with Lamar Jackson actually having some practice, we see things progress. They've obviously taken a step back as a tandem, and we've seen Mark Andrews kind of stay up there alone. Willie Snead is back also from the COVID list. Now, I do have to keep in mind all these players coming back from the COVID. Some players don't come back and play full reps right away. Some players have had issues cardiovascular-wise or getting out of shape or losing weight. So that stuff's worth considering. But I think Willie Snead is also interesting. If I'm putting Lamar in the captain, I'm cool with playing as many of his pass catchers as possible. And I'm not even opposed to playing the running backs with him. The only reason I wouldn't necessarily today is because the Browns have been good against the run. They've been a very strong pass funnel defense. So Willie Snead, who also did well in that first game, they put up 38 points. They didn't break the slate in terms of main slates, right? In the main slate, it wasn't that great. Everybody was okay. But if you can compartmentalize it to a showdown slate, it would have been an onslaught situation. And I think that's kind of the approach I plan on doing. I know that the Vegas odds indicate this game may be closer than what I'm thinking in my head, but I'm a little concerned about how the Browns move the ball against the Ravens. Ravens are just like kind of designed to give the Browns a hard time. And it's as simple as the Browns like to run the ball. The Ravens are very good against the run. They do have Brandon Williams back. We've got Calais Campbell down there. And without Odell Beckham, I'm worried that we see the passing game kind of really concentrate around Landry, who I think, he's really stepped up. He plays out of that slot, which is fine. I think CeeDee Lamb had some receptions, but I'm a little bit concerned with a week of practice, team getting healthier, what the Browns will do. I'm just not sold that there's some kind of offensive juggernaut outside of their run game. So if you can stop their run game, I think that the Browns are in trouble. So going back to the Ravens, I like Lamar Jackson paired with Andrews. I don't mind going Snead. I really don't like getting as many Ravens as possible, especially with Lamar and the captain, just hoping that he maybe runs for one and he throws one to each, kind of like he did the first time these guys met. So I don't think Snead should be left out of that conversation. He played really well in week 1. He's taken a big step forward with Lamar. So again, I will have a team with Lamar, Andrews, Snead, and Brown, right? The running backs, like I said, number one, it's a kind of a three-headed monster. I mean, Dobbins seems to clearly have separated himself from the pack, so he'd be the one I'd start with. But Cleveland, to their credit, has been good against the run. Now, where this game get out of hand, if this game were to get out of hand, or if the Ravens are playing from ahead, even by a touchdown or two, maybe we see them kind of run a lot. But I think Lamar's going to handle a lot of the run game work, because I think that's where they will be more successful, is with Lamar running opposed to the running backs, due to the defensive scheme of the Browns. Justin Tucker for value. I got no issues with. I'm actually kind of interested in the Ravens defense. They are cheap. They were another one again in that first meeting. The Ravens defense onslaughted with the Ravens offense would have done you pretty well, and I think that we're in a similar situation this week personally. The kicker Justin Tucker, one of the best kickers in the game, he's fine for value as well. But then you also have the guys you could take darts on. Guys like Devin Duvernay, Boykin. I don't with Snead back, I think Duvernay's playing time goes down, and I think there's a competition now of Duvernay and Boykin kind of taking Des Bryant's spot. Des Bryant expected to be out. Boykin kind of played that position for the most part, I think, throughout the season. Duvernay kind of, we saw them use him out of the slot when Willie Snead was out last week. But it's kind of a toss-up. I think Duvernay's the one that I feel is the most talented, but I'm a little concerned that they prefer him in the slot when Snead's off, and we see Boykin get a little bit more time outside. But to be honest with you, I'm sticking with the main for the most part. Maybe I play one of those two, depending on who fits. But I think I would rather play the Ravens defense or maybe even the kicker over them if need be. And obviously the main players of the passing game for Baltimore are the ones I'm the most interested in, paired with Jackson. On the Cleveland side, I'm real worried about Nick Chubb. Now, maybe everybody does, and if you get Nick Chubb at low ownership on a one-game slate, you're in a good situation. However, the Ravens have been very good against the run. They do have Brandon Williams, who's a difference maker up there on the defensive line. They got Calais Campbell. They got these guys. I think I'm more inclined to take a shot on Kareem Hunt, assuming that Baltimore plays from ahead and we see Kareem Hunt get some pass game work. It's an assumption. A big one. But Landry is probably my favorite one to bring it back with, as far as the expensive players go, at least. Right? He plays out of the slot. We know that Baker's got the most rapport with him. We can expect him to lean on Landry. The secondary of the Ravens is a little bit banged up. They're pretty good, but they are a little bit banged up. And I think if they're going to move the ball, it's going to be through him. With that said, you can make the same argument for Baker Mayfield. If I feel like they're not going to be able to run the ball, maybe that means Baker throws more, which I do think is a potential outcome or the likely outcome. But I think I only play Baker if I have like Landry and the captain or some shit like that. Otherwise, I'm pretty heavy towards the other side. I don't know if I want to invest that kind of money in a quarterback that has not played well against good defenses. Simply put. Rashad Higgins, it's a tough price tag, but we know the play time is there. With OBJ out, the next most interesting situation is probably their tight end situation. A good place to come and get value, right? We know that Austin Hooper's not expected to play. So Harrison Bryant, who really shined the last time that Hooper missed, or the first time Hooper missed, or whatever, what have you, we saw Bryant really, really shine. Now, Bryant and David Njoku have been playing very similar snaps to this moment. I would think that Bryant gets the edge, right? Njoku, we know, had problems, asked for trades, all these kind of things. So I would think that Bryant has the edge. But we can't discount Njoku, especially if they do end up playing like a 50-50 type share. While they're both cheap, Njoku was only $1,000. He could really do a little something for you. Not to say that Bryant can't. But Bryant against Tucker is not necessarily a far off, comparison, right? Tucker's one of the best kickers in the game. So I do like Harrison Bryant the most. If I can reach Bryant, I prefer him. I think they want to see more of what he's got. I think they want to give him opportunities. And again, I'm not totally sold that things are great with Njoku. So I do prefer Bryant. But if I can't get Bryant in, I'm still content with going down there. I do think Baker will try to utilize the tight ends in this particular matchup, assuming that he's under pressure, which I think he will be. So I'm more into the pass game on both sides. The run game to favor, I would lean towards the Ravens because schematically, you're not really worried about Baker running, and we know that the Browns like to run the ball. But I'm pretty heavy looking at like Onslaught City here. I don't know. I'm a little, maybe my approach is all fucked up, but I don't see how the Ravens don't beat the shit out of them here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, like I said, but just what I think. Looking at the chat now for the first time. Yeah, Brennan, what's up, man? Good to see you. Brennan has a good point here. Mayfield's last 2 starts against the Baltimore Ravens have been 2 of his worst games of his career, based off QBR. Yeah, oh yeah, including in that week 1. Brennan, how do you feel about running back with Higgins? I mentioned I'm fine with Higgins, man. I think that's where we're going to find the weaknesses of the Ravens. Their secondary is a little bit banged up. You know, Jimmy Smith missed last week. We have to see what the injuries kind of take us leading up to this point. But the Ravens secondary is where they have some injuries. So I think they're taking shots on their receiving game. And one of them, even though like you can't really consider anyone a volume play outside of Landry, Higgins is playing a lot. I know that Peoples-Jones got a lot of attention because of the touchdown he got last week, but he's kind of like Guyton to a degree, except I think Guyton is on a team that will throw more from Los Angeles over there, the Chargers. But he had like 3 targets. One of them happened to be a bomb for a touchdown, and that could certainly happen. But I think Higgins is the one who is playing a little bit more, and the one I'd be more inclined to think could have the bigger game. I'm good with him. Patio Joe, shout out to Patio Joe in the chat. Chubb, all caps. Do the dirty. Patio Joe likes Chubb. Man, listen, I tell you what, like right now, my instinct is to look towards the passing game. But I will say this, if that's the approach that everyone's going to do, if Chubb ends up being under-owned here, I'm going to feel like an idiot for not having enough. But I do believe, if you look at the numbers too, the Ravens' run defense is good. It's legit. And Chubb had one of the worst games of his season this year against these Ravens in week 1. But a lot has changed since then. Right? So we'll see. I'll do some picks real quick. Captains, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews. I'm going to give my top 3. Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, and then I'll say Jarvis Landry. I think this game goes under the total. Currently sitting at 45.5. I know that's really low, but I'm going to go with the under. I hate over-unders, to be honest with you. Very rarely actually bet. Besides, I do enjoy it. I'm going with the Ravens -3 on the road. They opened up -1, so you can argue that we lost some value already at this point. But Ravens -3 on the road against a team like they've really owned Baker, man. I know it's a small sample to a degree, but this is a division rival. They do play him, and Baker has really struggled against the Ravens. So I'm gonna ride that. Brennan, Joey Baldino, Ravens need to give up over 100 to Harris and over 100 to Henry. Yeah, but Joey, they were also dealing with some injuries, man. We know Brandon Williams missed some time, Calais Campbell missed some time. So again, I'm not ruling it out. But again, when these guys met in week 1, Dirty was done. But Joey seems to like Chubb. Brandon, I honestly like Hunt a little bit more. I like Hunt a little bit more too, simply because he's the pass game guy. So I think that he will get his carries, but he'll also get a little bit of that pass game work in case it fails. We know Chubb's not getting a ton of that pass game work. But again, Chubb is the one that's going to, they want to succeed with Chubb. If the Browns do well, if the Browns win this game, it's going to be because Chubb had a good game. I can tell you that. Now, again, the reason I'm not on Chubb is because I don't expect him to have a good game. But I'll tell you, if the Browns have a good game today offensively, or if they win this game, I'm going to assume that Chubb is in the winning lineup on the showdown. That's the way I'll put it. So grade it out based off of what you think the most likely outcome is of the game. Aha, Joey needs points from him in season long. I got you. My wife's in the playoffs in season long, and she needs Chubb to not do well. So, holla, Joe. But I'm going with the Ravens. I'm going to get up out of here. Appreciate those of you hanging out with us. We're doing the NFL shows a little bit earlier for the showdowns. I'm going to keep them solo for the rest of the season. We'll still grind them out with you guys, though. So we can carve some room for NBA. So I'll be doing an NBA show probably sometime around 1, 2 o'clock. And, we'll keep doing dirties. And then go get a day pass for the NBA if you haven't already. For the NBA, we will have Paulie D's Fast Break at wisec.com for paid members. And, of course, we will have the pre-lock show. Pre-lock show. Yeah, so, Brendan, I'll be doing a game-by-game kind of quicker show on YouTube. And then we're going to have the pre-lock show with myself and Paulie later. Behind the paywall. So that's how it goes. But we'll have a free NBA show coming up in a few hours, so stay tuned. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'm getting out of here for myself, the entire White Tech Nation. As always, good luck.
Yeah.